Individualism is so important because you are able to control yourself. People are able to control how they feel about something, what they consume, what they don't consume. It's individualism. And I love to highlight that. I also like to highlight that in sports in this way. Whether we talk about football, whether we talk about basketball, whatever sport we're talking about, each team is different. While yes, the goal usually is the same, to get to a Super Bowl, get to an NBA championship, get to a World Series. There's different ways to get there. And some teams are closer than others. Going into the season, what did I say about the New York Jets? I said that this was going to be the most important season, not just in franchise history, but this was going to be a very important season for Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be a very important season for Robert Saleh. You see, I started this episode with individualism because I wanted to highlight how individualism works in the NFL and how individualism is how we're seeing different teams, and also it can go hand in hand with pressure. And I said that there was not a team in the NFL that had more pressure on itself going into the season than the New York Jets. You can debate, you can question where they should have been ranked or how people should have viewed them going into the season, but I can promise you that they viewed themselves as a Super Bowl caliber team. They viewed themselves as a top tier team. They viewed themselves as a team that should have something to say about who hoists the Super Bowl at the end of the year. They did that. And because of that, and because of the moves that they've made these last few years, more specifically getting Aaron Rodgers, I believe their belief in themselves being a Super Bowl caliber team and them projecting themselves as to be a Super Bowl caliber team allowed the world to think that as well. Well, some people in the world to think that. And because of that, it grows and it breeds expectation. And I said going into this season that there was not a team that had more expectation on their shoulders than the New York Jets. Well, as we sit here today, as the New York Jets lose to the New England Patriots, who, might I add, going into this game, they only had one win. It was against the Bengals week 1. They were starting a rookie quarterback in Drake May. And when you look at their totals and you just look at the team, you can argue that this Patriots team was the worst team in football. Now, yes, obviously there are other teams, but it can be an argument. This Jets team lost to that Patriots team 25-22. We talked about this, I think, last episode. Again, I appreciate everyone that I told you guys last episode I was going to miss Wednesday's episode. So, we're here. Or miss Saturday's episode because I was out of town, but we're here. So I'm good. It feels good to be back. But let's get back to what we're talking about. I talked about this when they lost to the Steelers. I even talked about this when they lost the week prior. When you have expectations and there is a high demand, there is a lot of opinions headed towards you because you have the world watching, and you're not meeting those expectations. Whether your team, your player, you're not meeting those expectations that you set on yourself going into the season, i.e., individualism. What tends to happen is blame starts to get casted. You have to figure out, how is it that we are not close to the expectations that we set on ourselves? How is it that we are much further than the expectations that we set on ourselves now than we were, say, a year ago when circumstances were much worse in our eyes? Which is why you get people like Robert Saleh getting fired, which is why you get things like Nathaniel Hackett getting demoted, which is why you get things like maybe overspending to trade for Devontae Adams. I don't like, and we've seen this before, I don't like to call for a season to be over halfway through or a little before halfway through. Because you never know. We've seen teams go on mean runs. We've seen teams just get hot and find their way into the playoffs. And if you get to the playoffs, you pretty much have a shot. So I don't like to call a season being over. I feel it's a tad bit premature. But here is one thing that I do say. And this thinking that I have comes from a lot of data. It comes from what I've seen. And this thinking of mine usually comes when people say this team can, quote unquote, flip the switch. When they flip the switch, they'll be better. And my thinking is this. Has that team done anything, shown anything to make you think that they're even capable of flipping the switch? And when I look at this Jets team, they haven't done anything. Let's talk about some of the streaks that they're on. I think they're on a 6-game losing streak. Aaron Rodgers has gone like 13 straight games, I think, without throwing 300 yards. They're the only team in the NFL this year that has not scored hasn't scored 30 points. Or I'll say this, they have not scored over 25 points. They're regressing defensively since firing Robert Saleh. Their offense has absolutely no life. And it looks like this Aaron Rodgers experiment has failed. So when people say, oh, they can flip the switch, my thing is they haven't shown anything to make at least me think that they can flip the switch. And then I go to the grand scheme of it all. The reason why I started with individualism, because every team, while yes, the goal is still a Super Bowl, it doesn't take long to realize if your team is a Super Bowl caliber team or not. And once you understand that, and once you realize that, that's where the individualism, when we talk about teams, come from. That's when their views on their team starts to change. That's when their goals may start to change. That's when their approach to things start to change. That's where the individualism comes when we're talking about football. When I look at this Jets team, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, that you can point to think that this team is even going to get close to those expectations that they put on themselves. I heard I heard Shannon Sharp say this, and I didn't think about it at the time, but he's absolutely right. Nobody really attacks the whole quarterback away thinking. When you have a good defense, when you have good pieces, nobody really attacks that. And I mean attacks in a sense of when people say that the Jets were a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender, I was one of those people that was saying that. Not once did it ever cross my mind that things change yearly. And it was naive of me, because I'm only speaking for myself, it was naive of me to think that a defense that was playing so high, that was playing so well, was going to remain at that level year after year after year. And we're talking about a sport that is so physical and that anything can happen. And we also talk about a sport that it's also important to have the right coach in line. And I think it's safe to say now, Aaron Rodgers has not been great. He's been good, but I'll say this like this: he's been good in spurts. That's not good enough for a Super Bowl caliber team, and that's damn sure not good enough, and not what the Jets expected. On top of that, when people, I'm not gonna do it, but when people do the whole blame pie thing, and a lot of people like Stephen A. Smith gives majority of it to Aaron Rodgers, I understand why. It's such a trickle down effect. You get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wants Nathaniel Hackett, who is notoriously a bad coach. He wants Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator. He wants his friend Alan Lazard. He wants Randall Cobb. You have to pay him. You can't pay somebody else. You have to let somebody else go. Aaron Rodgers wants someone like Mike Williams. Aaron Rodgers, it's his responsibility to build a relationship with Garrett Wilson, which he did not prioritize in the offseason. At least that's what the reports are saying. It's not Aaron Rodgers. All of it is not Aaron Rodgers' fault, but I understand why people are saying that the dumpster fire right now, and I think it's safe to say that this is a dumpster fire right now. A dumpster fire that is the Jets. You know what it is? I take it back. I don't know if I've said this or not, but I think this is the worst thing that could have happened to the Jets. The worst thing that could have happened to Aaron Rodgers is the success that Tom Brady saw when he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because that was a true quarterback away situation. And while the Jets could have been, Aaron Rodgers is not Tom Brady. And it's no shame, but it is truth that a 41-year-old quarterback looks old, looks a step slow. While he has spurts isn't going to win you the ultimate prize. And for the Jets, it hasn't really won them games. And when we talk about rock bottom, I thought that losing to the Steelers after getting Devontae Adams, after firing Robert Saleh, after demoting Nathaniel Hackett, having all those moves, I thought that was rock bottom. Not because the Steelers were bad, but because the Jets knew how important last week was. The Jets knew how important, if you're going to turn around your season, you just lost to the Bills. If you're going to turn around your season, you have to do it now. Because there's at this point, there's no excuses. You have a number one receiver. You have pretty much two number one receivers. You make all these changes hoping that is what's going to spearhead you in the right direction. losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I thought that was rock bottom because of just how important that game was to the Jets season. I have learned that now I believe that losing to a Patriots team that, in all intents and purposes, is not looking to win. They're in the rebuild process, so they're not trying to win. And on top of that, they lose their quarterback. They lose Drake May midway through the game. So you lose to a team that is tanking, essentially rebuild, and a team that loses their starting quarterback, who is a rookie. And I think Darren Orlowski said it. Shouts out to him. A team that doesn't give up 250 yards, a team that scores 25 or more, and a team that I don't think has any turnovers and wins the possession battle, now that I think about it, is like 700 and something in one. And that one is the Jets. It's so crazy how different we are looking at the Jets now than how we thought we would be looking at them week one. Congratulations to the Patriots for beating the Jets 25-22. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.